at the Company of the Merchant Tailors of York.
We're delighted that you've come to have a look. It's a wonderful old hall. It's only been here 600 years.
600 years?
Yes, indeed. And we know it's 600 years because we had samples taken out of, cores taken out of all the main roof timbers and had them analysed for the tree rings, dendrochronology dating.
Yeah, so able to precisely date it.
It shows that all the timbers are from oak trees felled between 1410 and 1430.
Of course, the time of great oaks of this country. And so it's also slightly misleading, isn't it? Because the frontage here gives the impression of a more contemporary building, doesn't it?
It does.
But if we come around the side, we can see, can't we, some of those timbers.
Well, this is how it was originally.
Yeah.
That's how it was originally. But in the 1700s, it became fashionable to have a brick-faced building.
Yeah.
So it has been brick-faced at that stage.
This was an old hat by that stage, as you might say.
Well, that's right. Well,
yeah.
If you wanted to be up to date, you had a brick building.
Yeah.
So they brick-faced it, and as you can see, there's various stages of brickwork.
Yes.
And frankly, it's a little bit of a mishmash.
It's a bit like King's Man in that respect, isn't it? You can sort of trace the history of the various...
That's right.
Where windows have been, a bit of messing around.
Right.
That's kind of nice, isn't it? A bit of the history and the evolution of the building, isn't it?
That's right, yes.
Now, if I'm right in thinking, you've got a rather unusual animal in your quest. Not the sort of thing that immediately would spring to mind.
Well, there's two camels.
Two camels,
and
right.
The question is, why should there be camels?
Yep.
But it's based on the arms of the London Company of Merchant Tailors, which is
London.
a separate body.
Yep.
They controlled the tailoring in York, and we controlled it they controlled it in London.
Yeah.
We controlled it in York.
Yeah.
But they had camels.
Yeah.
And ours is copied on theirs. And if you ask them why they have camels, there is two explanations. And they don't know which is right.
Yeah.
One is camels were a symbol of international trade.
Yeah.
The second is that camels, St John the Baptist is the patron saint of tailors, and he wore a tunic of
known to wear camel, wasn't he? Yes, absolutely. Yes, yeah.
That's right.
And the guilds would typically associate with one particular saint. That's correct. These confraternities.
Yes. Yes.
So St John the Baptist was associated with the merchant tailors.
Yeah. With tailors generally.
And that goes all the way back, does it? Can we go inside there?
Yes, do come inside.
Thank you. So this is it still operates the Company of Merchant Tailors. It's still a going concern, as you might say.
It's still a gungeon. There are not many of us that are tailors because there are not many tailors.
No, of course.
But no, we're all custodians of looking after this magnificent hall.
It is quite something.
And when you then turn and look into the Great Hall, it really has something of a wow factor about it.
It is utterly amazing. And what's lovely about this building is it's so well used, isn't it? With weddings and functions
and weddings and conferences and dinners, and of course it's the income from that helps to maintain the building.
Yeah.
The beams, the roof timbers are all original. And we had the window put in at the far end in 2015 to mark the 600th anniversary of the hall.
600 years, yes. Wow. And largely unchanged internally for that, and not so much but I mean the configuration of the rooms, is that largely as it would have been?
It consists of one large hall and then the smaller hall on the right-hand side. The panelling itself is not particularly old.
No.
That's last century, but certainly the main timber work. But what's interesting is you see out onto the city wall.
Indeed.
And here over the fireplace we have the arms of the London Company of Drapers, which was painted in the 1660s.
Wow.
It was repainted over 3 times. And in 1980s, we decided to get rid of the original, the top layers of paint, and get back to the original, which we did, except for that little piece.
Oh, I see. So you've highlighted the...
That's got the extra 3 coats of paint
the
on.
Johnny Come Lately kind of additional,
right. That's right. And they are crowns on top of clouds, on top of sunbeams.
Unusual to have the motto in English rather than Latin, isn't
it? That's right. In our case, the motto is in Latin and means, with harmony, small things flourish.
Oh, really? How nice. Yeah. Well, I've not seen something of that age before, where it's been in English in the vernacular rather than it just tends to be the go-to language.
Quite unusual.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's been there, 400 years.
So I think looking over here, is this the master's robe?
This is the master's robe.
Yeah.
A master is a master for the year.
Yeah.
He is the chairman of the company and chairs the meetings, but he's also the company's representative. and that's the arms of the Company of Merchant Tailors.
That is absolutely fabulous. Beautiful embroidered, beautiful threads, isn't it? Really,
It is.
Really.
Beautifully done.
And what's that right in the centre there? Is that a tiger? What's
There's a,
is this that?
no, that's a lion.
That's a lion.
Lion's head.
Okay.
And then by the lion's head, you've got two gowns, one on either side.
I see.
And
Yeah.
then below that, you've got the designed by the pavilions. It was a jousting tent, which of course was a tailoring function.
Yes.
And then we had the window put in 2015.
Yeah.
And pointing to the 15, you can see the needle and thread.
Oh, of course, yeah,
But
working its way
it's-
through.
What it is, it's the coat of arms on folds of cloth.
Yes.
Designs are made by Helen Whitaker, the local but very famous stained glass painter.
It's so nice isn't it, to have contemporary art form as well, though, isn't it? You know, obviously not so much medieval glass in the city that
That's
to have
right.
some really high quality contemporary glass. I think
So
is.
this is beautiful modern stuff, but beautifully done, and it really sets off the hall.
And I mean, it's not a particularly bright day out there, is it? But those colours absolutely sing,
They
don't they?
do.
I mean, they really.
Well, if you see it on the sunny
can
day,
imagine.
it's even more stunning.
It is absolutely.
And then
wonderful.
the coat of arms at the top is the arms of when the company was granted its charter
Yeah.
by King Charles, 1662.
And what
And
white?
that was carved by Dick Reed.
And we've got white roses in there. White rose of Yorkshire as well
Yes,
going on.
he was a local and internationally known carver and stonemason.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. So you've got an older window though. I seem to remember this is the one through here. It's a
Yes,
old gallery. This for the musicians, wasn't it? The entertainers.
as the Minstrels
The
Gallery.
Minstrels Gallery.
Yes, there's a little door in the far right-hand side.
Yeah.
We don't allow people up there
No,
these days
imagine.
because we're not too sure about how it was structurally. But you can imagine in the old days, they
Oh,
brought
yeah.
the steps along, the minstrels went up, they took the steps away, and you got the minstrels captive until you decided you'd had enough of them.
To make sure you got to the toilet first, then, wouldn't you?
This was a small hall which was panelled out in the 1960s.
Yes.
And this is quite a famous window because the central panel of that window was painted by Henry Giles, who
Yeah.
was a local York stained glass painter in 1662. That's his second oldest piece of work.
Wow. So we're talking just post restoration, then, aren't we?
That's right.
1662.
And it was restored in 1862, as you can see in the panel at the top.
Did the Puritans frown upon Guildhalls? I mean, did they kind of see
No,
that,
no, I
or were they allowed to continue through
They were allowed to continue until
the-
the 1800s when
Yeah.
they were formally their regulatory functions
Yeah.
were then
So
ceased.
one of the few things Cromwell didn't have a problem then, presumably.
Yes.
Yeah, most other things were sort of repressed, weren't they? Look at that! Isn't that fabulous? So this camel thing goes back a long, long way then, doesn't it? So into
Yes.
300-year-old crest. It's absolutely lovely.
And then this panel at the bottom records our restoration in 2008.
Yep.
And as you can see, again, it was done by Helen Whitaker, but it mimics the restoration in 1862 in
Yeah,
design.
and that's what's got arts and crafty, isn't it?
Similar design,
Yeah.
but a modern contemporary version of the
Almost sort of
layout.
William Morris sort of style,
Well, it
styling's
is
in the top,
almost, yes.
up there, isn't it?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so you've got echoes of the history and kind of each
Absolutely.
generation bringing in.
That's right.
But then obviously the new edition of 1862 is now part of the history, isn't it? It's
That's
which is
right.
amazing.
And
And of course,
due
in time,
2008 will be part of the history.
100 years from now, I'm sure this will be all
Yeah.
here. We won't be here, but
Yeah.
this will be, I'm sure. And
That's another fascinating window. Again,
There's a Queen
it's
Anne,
a
I believe.
Giles window, and
Yeah.
that's Queen Anne at the top. But it's interesting because it says there about the wording near the bottom about the company having in its fraternity kings and dukes and earls and
44 lords, yeah.
which is an absolute nonsense as far as this company is concerned.
Really?
We're pretty certain that relates to the London Company.
Oh, I
of
see.
Merchant
So
Tailors,
guilt by
which the
association.
restoration of their hall after the Great Fire of London in 1679.
So that's my Queen. So it's not associating Queen Anne with the company, simply that she was on the throne when this
At the
restoration
time,
took place.
That's right.
Yeah.
When the top part of the window is done, yeah.
She's hanging out with the cherubs there. So AR and
Yes.
Regina, wouldn't it be? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Queen Anne.
But again, when the sun shines through that window, it really is quite spectacular.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It really is. And again, one little cherub, or putty, what do you call them,
Yes.
at the bottom?
And then on the right-hand side, this is the list of masters, and the list of masters in the hall goes back to 1641, and there have been masters every year since then.
Oh, Lord. Are you a former master?
I was a former master. I was on there
Can we see your name?
in 2005.
There we go.
Yep.
We're the company of masters. Well, is there a name for a former master? Is
Sorry?
there a name like equivalent of Alderman?
You're
or
a past master.
Past master. You're a past master. So you're currently a
Once
past
you've been
master.
master, you're a past master.
And I take it this is...
And that was a painting, a wonderful painting
yeah.
of the company at the time of the millennium.
I see, right.
We didn't assemble there in the hall. Peter Menin was the artist. He invited each of us to his studio.
Yeah.
Got us talking, took photographs of it, front,
I
side,
see.
and back, and then put together this lovely assembly
He
of the members
created.
against the background of the hall. And here we see the master
Yep.
in his robe, and the past master in his robe.
Yeah.
And if you've been a master at that time, then you have the blue
Yeah.
collar with a past master's badge on.
And is this an all-male company then, or is it...
At that time, it was an all-male company.
Yeah.
We reintroduced ladies in about 2003.
Okay.
And now we've got a substantial number of ladies in the company.
So
there were
it's not a
originally-
great reflection of the current sort of makeup, as you might say.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. But the company originally included lady members
Yeah.
because there were lady tailors.
Well, I was going to say, yeah,
And we
certainly,
have,
yeah.
And we have records of girls being apprenticed to lady tailors. That's our modest collection of silver, and some very nice pieces there, in particular the one in the middle, which is 1638, and it's hallmark York silver.
Beautiful.
So that's a particularly interesting piece.
So at the time when this was at its height, the members would all be working tailors or involved in the kind of cloth trade.
Indeed.
Would they need to be Christian? Because obviously I know that there's a strong association.
There was a strong association because it was a religious order to begin with.
So the Jewish
But
tailors
St.
couldn't
John
have been
the
part
Baptist-
of this then at the
I
time?
presume not.
No, interesting, isn't it? Because we often associate, do we, with the Jewish
No,
faith, and
that's
immigrants and so forth.
And those two that you're just coming into focus are cups that were made again for the millennium. They're to a modern design,
Yeah.
but in fact they're quite fitting with the rest of the silver.
It's all of a piece, isn't it? It certainly works as a collection, doesn't it?
Yes.
You're looking at it. And so these would come out then, were they on sort of ceremonial occasions?
Indeed, at formal dinners, then they will be on display.
Raising toasts
That's
and
right,
so forth.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fabulous.
But it's we put that display case in 2009 to be able to have the silver in the hall so that it's accessible when we require it.
So again, each of these then is just different.
These are the list of the masters
different
going
periods.
back to 1641.
So we can see who the master would have been then, couldn't we? Was it 1662 on that window? So it would have been
Yes.
John Loftus.
No, 16. Was it 1662?
I think it was 62.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
John
was.
Loftus. Yeah, so
Yes,
he would have been
John
the master
Loftus, yes.
when that original window
Yes.
was.
And into 63 would then be John Straker, who was
Yeah.
one of the names well known in the company.
I see. Lovely rounded doorways. So that's the sort of straightforward royal crest, isn't it?
That's
So-
the Royal Crest, that's right, of 1662, carved by Dick Reed, who was a local craftsman and stonemason who went on to national and international fame.
And does that infer any kind of special privilege? Did you need permission to have a kind of royal crest on your premises?
Well, presumably we would,
Yeah.
at that stage.
Perhaps
We are-
gifted
I
by
presume
the
that's
permission,
right.
yeah.
Yes, I must admit I don't know for certain, but I'm sure that would be the case. But it's a wonderful carving. It's made
beautiful,
of
isn't it? Yeah.
3 strips of pine vertically and 3 strips of pine horizontally.
Yeah, there's
3
something very similar in the
inches
Mansion
thick
House,
to
isn't
give
there?
us- That's right,
Yeah.
to give the depth for the carving.
It's absolutely fabulous. And then there's just this sort of the outer bit, isn't there, that
Yes.
on the way in. And what was it? It's this costume display today. It's about Ukraine, did I say, on the way in?
Yes, the Ukrainians have a display here. We
see.
offered them space to be able to display their costumes, and they've attracted quite a lot of attention. They're delighted to have
It's wonderful, isn't it?
a space.
And of course,
for
you're
it having
noticing
a-
your colours in your
Well, they
your
are.
crest are rather
Yes,
on trend,
indeed.
aren't they, as you might
Yes.
say? So look at this traditional dress, isn't that wonderful? And have we any idea if cloth from Yorkshire would have got as far as the Ukraine? Obviously, we know that it was, a lot of Europe was buying English cloth. I wonder if it got that
that's
far.
right. Well, it was exported all over the world.
Yep. And do you think was it the quality of the kind of cloth production in the north and the wools that would have brought many of the people to want to work
yes,
in this
yes,
area?
it was, and of course, one of the purposes of the guild was to maintain the standards of the tailoring function.
Yeah.
And if you were tailoring in York and weren't a member of the guild, then you were chased out of town.
Drummed out of the
Yes.
place, yeah.
Yes, this is the grant of our arms in 1963
Yep.
with the camels.
Yep.
The original is in the Borthwick Institute, but
Right,
that's
okay,
a very
at the
good
university, yeah.
image of it.
Yes.
And then in the window there, you see,
Ah,
it's probably
a bobbin.
difficult to pick up, but you can pick up some of the accessories to the tailoring trade. The cotton reel, the scissors, a tape and a thimble, and an iron,
Yeah.
as symbols of tailoring.
And also haberdashery as well. Does that sort of come in, or is that something sort of
Yeah.
separate?
Well, I'm sure it will be an allied trade. That's a drawing of the hall in the 1930s before restoration started. You can see there's all the original roof timbers there. They look fine, but the rest of the hall, and particularly the panelling, is in a dreadful state of repair.
So this kind of building really would have been built really probably right at the end, wouldn't it, of York's period of kind of economic success. It's really starting to tip
it was
away,
built-
isn't it?
That's right. It was built in 1415.
Yeah.
And this is a copy of our Royal Charter granted by
that
Charles II.
Yeah.
The original again is in the Borthwick Institute, but that's page 1 of a 3-page charter document.
And that sets out the permissions and the entitlement, is that right?
Absolutely, that's that incorporates us as a company.
That's quite some document, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, when you think it's 3 pages as well, it's quite detailed wording. It's all the rules and the governance of the company.
Isn't that amazing?
And these are wonderful old arches, which
Yeah.
have been part of the original structure.
It's wonderful the pegs, the way
Yes.
the construction, and
That's
once
right.
they swell up, they're actually a very strong joint,
They
aren't
do,
they?
yes.
So most of this is the original timber to analyse, is it?
These are all original timbers, yes. I wouldn't say the ceiling here is all original timbers, but certainly the main structure is.
But perhaps reclaimed from other places, that's not
right.
uncommon, is
Yes,
it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, you can sort of see what's it looks like. And it gets darker as it gets older, doesn't it? Oak?
Yes. There was a third arch,
Yeah.
but then the stairs were put in, and there's a small room upstairs.
I see.
But the third arch the timber is still about. And
So-
then what we have through there is a toilet facilities. But that coat of arms is quite interesting because it was embroidered by
I've
fine
seen some
cell.
painting, but yes, of course
It's fine cell.
Yeah.
It's worked by prisoners as a business in prison.
Oh, I see.
Where you can commission them to embroider work. It's fine cell is the organisation, but it is absolutely brilliant, and it's a wonderful depiction of our coat of arms.
It is absolutely fabulous.
And
isn't
that
it?
was presented to us by a master about 10 years ago.
There's so many sort of different treatments, isn't there? And each one sort of gives a different sort of quality,
Absolutely,
doesn't it?
that's
You find
right.
yourself sort of noticing different bits.
Yes.
In terms of these kind of different renderings. So to me, much more apparent now the tent and the.
Well, you can get close up here, and
Yeah.
of course you can see the detail.
It's really something.
Our arms differ from the London Company of Merchant Tailors in that we've got collars on the camels and a few white roses.
Yes, you wouldn't
scattered
have
around
those.
to
Yeah,
give us
absolutely.
The York.
The York and Yorkshire
Yes.
connection.
Yeah.
And so are you a kind of, is it just affiliation with the London Company, or is there an official?
No, it's an entirely freestanding.
Entirely freestanding, yes.
Yes.
So there's no relationship
No,
other than
no
just a friendly.
formal connection. We obviously know each other, and
Yeah.
we invite each other to various dinners and functions.
So you wouldn't get invited to the Lord Mayor's show or whatever in London?
No,
Yeah,
no,
that sort of thing. Yeah.
No. But we always invite the London Master to our formal dinners, and the
Yeah.
drapers and the woolmen and the weavers. Because in medieval times in York, for instance, there were 90 different guilds.
Yeah.
All sorts of guilds, candle makers, silversmiths, all sorts. But tailors were the largest craft guild, and they were quite a wealthy.
So they got their own hall.
Hence, they've got a hall like this.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I think it's absolutely fabulous. And I say the thing that's most wonderful is how well used it is. I think that's
Well, we
a
want to
testament,
see
isn't it,
used.
to the-
We
yeah.
want to see it used because it's the use of it and the income from that. But it wants to be usable, not as a museum piece.
it's a happy, healthy building, then, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, probably ventilated and lit. And
This is a wonderful door.
Look at that,
with
isn't
a little
that
wicket door
just-
here.
look at that, isn't that fabulous? So you wouldn't need to open the big doors on a cold winter's
No.
evening.
Yes,
Quickly put them in.
You wouldn't argue with that, would you?
It's a pretty solid affair, isn't it? Wow, that is amazing. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Wilford. I
Pleasure.
do appreciate you spending the time with us today.